2017 when I ran the nation's largest roofing company. And so, because we were in a bit of a slump as a team, and we needed to figure out, and I needed to make an impact. My top rep, he's like, man, we got to do something, man. This sucks. If you've ever seen that movie, what is it, Office Space, when they beat up that copier?
Yeah, they break.
Well, we had a copier we hated, and we were actually trading it out. So I picked up a baseball bat, and I says, if you guys are as frustrated as me, follow me. And these guys were nervous, and so they follow me out back, and we just beat the heck out of this copier. And then we went on to have the best day in Able history. We sold just under $1 million in one day.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast, brought to you by your boy, Mike Stearns with, you got it, Ascend Digital Agency. You're in for a real treat today, folks. If you have a sales team, if they're struggling, if you just need help, we got the GOAT, Chuck Thokey, with us today. Chuck, thanks for joining.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. Let's get this thing going.
Fuck yeah. But before we do, special thank you to the team at Roofer for help making this happen. If you need roof measurements, instant quotes, CRM, proposals that'll give your prospects no choice but to buy from you, click the link in the description. They'll know I sent you. You'll be happy that you did. So, Chuck, we generate a lot of leads at Ascend Digital Agency for contractors that want to grow. It happens every day. And we have meetings with these clients, right? Because we're a high-touch agency and we actually give a shit about what happens with the leads. Some people struggle, some more than others, right? Some people have really good processes. Some people are a work in progress, and we're taking the approach of progress over perfection, and that's great. I always want to see people grow. A lot of people ask me, like, how frequently should I have sales meetings, right? How should they be structured? What are the topics that should be handled? Is there a day that's better than others? Me personally, I hate Monday morning meetings, and that might be trauma from one of my previous positions because we come in Monday after a long weekend. I'd usually be watching the Bills get their ass kicked on Sunday, and then the first thing I got to do is hear about how terrible we are at our jobs and how much we're not doing and what needs to be done. So I think that there was opportunities to improve, well, the structure and what was being talked about, the way that it was framed in those meetings, but also, like, it's not what I wanted to do at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's me personally. Let's talk about it, man. You got all the experience. You've worked with tons of different contractors of varying sizes. Like, what do you see?
Yeah, so we've worked with, very large billion-dollar organizations, home service organizations, all the way down to, sub-million. And so here's what I'm going to tell you is when you look at your business, and we're going to take this even further because many people that are watching this have heard me say it, but I'm going to take it to a different level, is, are you a professional team or are you a rec league? A lot of people have heard me say this. I say it on when I'm speaking or when coaching, but you really have to look at yourself, and look at these professional teams, because you have a sales team. But I'm going to say, and I'm going to challenge most people watching this, that you have a pool of reps. You don't have a team. You have a pool of reps that wish that the other rep would fall on his face so that they can get the leads. And the other guy was like, oh, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. No, they're not. I'm very happy to hear you fell on your face. And so we need to look at our sales team and decide, first and foremost, are we a professional team, and is it a team? So here's the next level to this is when you look at these, I don't care if it's a high school team, college team, professional team, how often do they practice? They practice daily. They even have 2-a-day practices, in many cases. And then I'm going to switch it over here and say, do you think when a good team, because there are some bad ones out there, a good team fails and they lose a game, that they go into the next training or their next practice and they're like, well, you guys really effing suck. Yeah. You guys fell on your face. They don't. They move on, okay? They look at what could have been better, what strategies need to be changed. So I'm going to challenge the people that are watching this and say, so when you have a bad month or a bad day, do you guys like, well, that really sucked, guys. Maybe if you guys would work a little bit harder, we'd actually hit our goals. That should never happen. You can get a little passionate in a sales meeting, and some people have watched my rant when I lost my shit in the middle of a meeting, and a sales rep decided he would videotape it. but yet, even watching that, you could see that it was, if you knew that it was, staged, it was, just didn't know it was going to be recorded. But again, when we look at our meetings, when should you have your meetings? You should not just have one meeting for the week. We have some clients that they will have 3 sales meetings during the week, which I think is good. Maybe one main sales meeting and then 2 others that are, just different. Maybe it's just, but they're all training. Or we have a lot of organizations, and I will say hundreds of organizations that come to us just because they want to learn Power Hour. And Power Hour is a little bit different. So remember, first and foremost, we are a team. So we're going to work on our performance as a team. And just like anywhere else, any of these professional teams, that there are times when you have to take an individual and give them personal attention. So those are different. But Power Hour is when it's every single morning, and we're going to take a look at yesterday, how yesterday went, we're going to go through each appointment, and the whole team is there. Any of the team, and I will dig into our team. We have over 25 people on our team. And we'll dig into our team and say, if any of you right now are rolling your eyes, you can get out of it right now. You can just go ahead, click. And by the way, if I realize that you're jumping out, your leads are going to somebody else. We operate as a team. If you don't want to be part of this team, I will high five you on the way out, and you can go work for somebody else. They have to know that we are a team. And on the flip side of this is that as we're inside that meeting, I'm going to talk about what happened yesterday, and then we're going to strategize what's going on today. So today, we have 15 appointments. We have, so many appointments, and there's 3 of you that have some large gaps. So Billy and Tommy, I want to know from you what you're going to do in that gap, and it better not be washing your truck. So that's Power Hour.
But the truck's dirty, boss.
It is all positive. We actually have, for anybody that wants it, we'll send it out and just email us. We have a rundown of how we start Power Hours. What's the expectation for the rep, and what's the expectation for me as the sales leader. But that's Power Hour. But then we get into sales meetings. We like Tuesday sales meetings because we don't like them on Mondays. You even mentioned you don't like going to meetings on Mondays, so we don't have them on Mondays. And it's really dumb to have, if you're going to have just one meeting, it's really dumb to have a meeting on Friday. It just doesn't. You're a complete.
People are checked out.
Yeah, you're going to get them all, jazzed up to go into the weekend. Good job. Yeah. So and folks that know me know that I'm very in your face about a lot of this, and it's because we know what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, and to your point, like where you kind of went off on people. First of all, there's a lot of different ways that you can say the same thing, and based on how you frame it, how you say it, it's going to ultimately impact how it resonates with people and what they feel when they walk away. Right. Mm-hmm. When you went off, and you were candidly being recorded, maybe people in that very moment felt a certain way, but through previous meetings in leadership, right, they probably revert back to feeling like Chuck's got our best interest in mind, right? Like we're kind of fucking up here, and they're more likely to take accountability and then, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and start doing the shit that needs to be done. Whereas but that's built through that effective leadership and having that sample size, right? If you don't have that and you just start laying into people in your first sales meeting because you have never had structured meetings, you're starting to have them, and you're paying attention to these things. Because a lot of guys that I've, historically over the last 10, 11 years, they don't know. They don't have their finger on the pulse of the data and what each sales rep's doing, what their closing rates are. So now they start having meetings and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are you guys doing all day? Right? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, it's simple. And if you take that approach, especially in the very early stages of your meetings, you don't have that same, I guess, not authority in their eyes, but the same buy-in to your leadership style, where they're more likely to respond negatively, whether it's in your face or behind the scenes, right? Now you create culture demons and all these different things that you don't want. And it actually has a negative impact on your company instead of a positive.
You know, in this instance, this was all the way back in 2017 when I ran the nation's largest roofing company. And so we had, at that point, you could see in the room, if I were to send it to you, we had just under 30 reps there just in Columbus alone. And that day, these guys went out, and to this day, they've never had a sales day that big. It was just under $1 million. We sold just under $1 million in one day. Now, you might look at this and like, man, I'm screaming and yelling at all my people. No, that's not a good idea. Yeah. Remember that when even there, and you could, if now that I tell you that it was staged, you can see. Because I'm not the greatest actor, but those guys didn't know it. I mean, because I was really digging in, and what happened was my top rep, his name's Chris Smith. He comes in that probably the morning before. He's like, "Man, we got to do something, man. This sucks." Because we were in a bit of a slump as a team, and we needed to figure out. And I needed to make an impact. And so we train this to our clients on how to make an impact, not how to get upset with your team, but how to make an impact inside of your sales meetings. And I've done this in many different ways, and people laugh with all the different ways I've made an impact. Some were above board, and some not so above board, because you try different things. And he comes to me and he says, "Man, we got to do something." And he says, "What I want you to do," because he's not to get into his personal life, but he had some issues, and so he was taking naps on the couch inside of our sales room. He says, "Man, jump on me about taking these naps. Do something, man." So I did. And I probably went a little too far with it because I was like, "Man, if I catch you sleeping on that couch again, I'm going to put Brandon Mandrell all over," because that was the guy that was kicking his tail in Nashville at the time, in our Nashville location. And I says, "I'm going to put Brandon Mandrell's name on the back of that couch," and that really fired him up. But then I took everybody, if you've ever seen that movie, what is it, Office Space, when they beat up that copier?
Yeah, they break.
Well, we had a copier we hated, and we were actually trading it out. So I picked up a baseball bat, and I says, "If you guys are as frustrated as me, follow me." And these guys were nervous. Like my sales manager just picked up a baseball. Right before that, I put my foot through one of our sample windows. I meant to kick it, and I put my foot through the window. So these guys were nervous anyway when I pick up a baseball bat. And so they follow me out back, and we just beat the heck out of this copier. And then we went on to have the best day in Able history. But again, you got to make an impact in the way that you feel that your team, you can't say, "Well, Chuck did this. Maybe I should just go lose my shit in the middle of a meeting." No. You got to know your audience. Yeah. I knew these guys. I've known them for 4 years. We built one of the strongest foundations that company's ever seen inside that 4 years. And so they trusted me, they knew me. And so for me to be able to do and go that far with them, they knew that there was a reason behind it. So, but again, there are certain times where you have to make an impact. And there are all the time you have to be training. Right. And when you're having a sales meeting, when you have first rule of sales meetings, hour-long sales meetings, that's an email. That should not happen. And I don't care if you have 2 reps. 2-hour sales meetings should be what you should be having. And during this sales meeting, if you're going to do any, what we call, house cleaning. If you're going to have any house cleaning, they terminated certain colors. We added colors. That right there should be in the first 5 minutes. If you can't get through that in 5 minutes, it needs to be put in an email. I'm going to tell you anything that's house cleaning that the sales reps need to know should always be in writing and in an email if possible. If it's in a memo, hand it out at the sales meeting, but let them know really quick that's what you're going to be doing. The other thing when you are having these meetings is you have to start out on a positive note. So we do these, what they call eagles and alligators. Eagles are things that are positive in your life, whether it is maybe you made a big sale, or maybe your kid won a state championship. It could be personal, professional, doesn't matter, but what is going good in your life? And then the alligators is nothing more than, like Mike, our COO, he calls them roadblocks. And these are things that you have gone through inside your sales appointments that you couldn't get through, that things that just hung you up, and it's not that we're not going into anything bad. We do not want bad news. This is something that hung me up in a call, and I want to know. What's nice is we have Rilla, so we can always pull that up. And, Rilla is, with us, it's a little different because we have a different type of Rilla than what most people have because we're coaches. But we can actually pull up that date and time and say, here's the issue that we were having at that point. So, but again, making sure that we start out on a positive note is key. Then we look at the numbers, and people are like, well, I thought you started out with a positive note. We look at the numbers because, again, we're a team. We're going to put it up on the board, and it's not so much what individual numbers are because we actually hand out. Don't put individual numbers up on the board. Those should be a handout. They should have everybody's numbers should be right in front of them, on a piece of paper, not on a board. But then the numbers for the month for the team, we're going to get into this and we're going to ask for help. You should not be the mechanic every time. Being a sales manager should not always be the mechanic of the meeting every single time. All right, so this is what we need to do. That shouldn't come from you. The sales reps, this is a team. We're going to figure this out as a team. And when the sales team decides that this is how they're going to fix the month, I promise you they're going to do it. But if the sales leader comes in and say, okay, guys, this is how we're going to go about this, everybody's looking at each other like this guy's an idiot.
If anyone has kids, you know that they're much more likely to adopt philosophies that are their own opinion, right? Than if we tell them, you're going to do this because of this, right? Anytime it's their idea, you're much more likely to get the desired outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to ask is, like, in that vein, like, how do you coax that out of people? Is it something where you're isolating certain like leading indicators or key performance indicators, and one rep's doing really well in this aspect, and they learn from each other, and you kind of coax it out in that way? Or like, what's the process like for you?
So we do like to bring, if it's a new, if we like to call them climbers. Climbers for us are sales reps that are climbing through the ranks. They maybe they were number 6, and this week they got up to number 3 or number 2. We want to get these guys in front because we want to push. And nobody likes when the top rep every meeting gets accolades. That rep even gets bored of it. And so when we see that someone's climbing, even those top reps are clapping, because they've seen what it looks like. They had to do it the same way. And now you're looking at a brother of yours walk through this. Like, hey, I need to figure out what this person's doing because they're about to pass me up. But everybody loves to clap for a climber, not so much for a consistent top rep. They always want to know what they're doing. But when they're always the one holding the belt, week after week, the same guy's holding the belt. That just gets old. It gets boring. Nobody even cares unless somebody new is holding that belt. But we want to know why certain people are doing well, and we also want to know why some of the team, we don't call them out, but why some of the team are struggling. What are they seeing? I'm going to tell you 97% of the time, and now we actually have this as scientific data because of Rilla, but 97% of the time, the reason why others aren't performing the way that some of the top performers are is mindset. It's mindset. It's not because the others are practicing more. It's not because, and mindset could be many different things, that they just don't believe, they don't see it, or there's something going on in their life that's holding them back.
How do you isolate what it is so you can address it?
We will pull them aside. We're going to take a look at it. We're actually working right now in Top Rep. We're working right now to go through a certain assessment. But this has to be, it's not like, hey, take this assessment, let me know what it says. No, we want this assessment more to, here, you're the sales leader. This is the set of questions I want you to ask. Sit down and ask certain people. You can't ask it in a group. It has to be, one-on-one behind closed doors. And these are the answers that you're going to be getting. Based on these answers, this is the reason why. And we're very close. We're very close to what this looks like. But it's a questioning technique that we want to teach leaders so that they understand where this rep is. Is it that this rep is to the point where they're so into the fact that they can't handle rejection? And that it is a fear that people have. Like, you probably don't know it, but I have a fear of public speaking, and I give 72 speeches a year. My heart rate goes through the roof. And it's no different than if I couldn't handle rejection and I just had to calm myself down because I knew I had a job to do in the house. Am I willing and able to calm myself down and do my job? Or am I going to tuck tail and run and fall victim to my own fear?
Right.
So we have to figure out what that is and why certain reps don't perform at certain levels.
Is there a particular question off the top of your head that you really like to ask, just as like a check-in as part of that sequence?
So the big thing for me, and this is a question that I have asked for 2 decades, when I get a sales rep that I can't seem to get past a certain point, is, can you tell me what is going through your head when you're giving price? What is going through your head when you deliver price in the house? And I'm going to ask them that day, and then I'm going to ask them the next day. I'm going to ask them the same question, because now when I ask them right away, they may come up with an answer, but throughout the next 24 hours, if they have appointments, that's going through their head, and say, hey, now that you've had appointments, do you know what's going through your head? Now that I've asked you yesterday, and I'm sure that you've been thinking about this question for the last 24 hours, do you mind if I ask it again? And they're looking like, I have been thinking about it, and you're right. I get butterflies in my stomach. I almost get sick, when it's time to deliver price because I'm so nervous. And here's what we do at that point. It says, for the next 24 hours, I want you to detach from the outcome. I literally want you to not give a shit about selling that job. All I want you to do is check the fucking boxes. And they're like, well, I can do that. It says, I will not even hold your close rate against you. I want you not to care. I want you to check the boxes. I want you to do what you know you're supposed to do from going in through all of these sales meetings and getting trained. You know what you're supposed to do. I've seen you with the simulator. I've seen you role play. You know it. And I want you not to care about the outcome. If you call me and tell me that the homeowner kicked you out, I'm going to say, did you do what you were supposed to do? And if your answer is yes, then I'm going to say, then you didn't do it the way you were supposed to do it if you actually got kicked out. Because we go low and slow and you will never get kicked out. And I don't care what, well, I'm sure that if you said certain things you shouldn't say, you're going to get kicked out. But if you tell them what we tell you and you go low and slow, you will not get kicked out because there is no pressure. And what we get from that, and this is, I'm going to say I have not gotten anything back negative. It's usually I've closed everything that I pitched today. And it's because they put themselves in the right mindset, that they knew their job. It's not that they knew they could close it. They knew their job. They did their job. When they left, that no matter what happened, they still high-fived themselves because they did everything they were supposed to do.
Yeah, and it's a different experience for the person on the receiving end of what you're saying. Like they can, you got those butterflies and you're nervous and you're like figuring out, okay, like this is going to get me to my goal. This isn't, like that shit manifests itself in ways that are obvious when you're sitting on the other end of that conversation. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way that that's perceived by that other party is probably not going to help your cause for getting them to hand you a check for $15,000 or $20,000.
We just went through this earlier this week with a huge franchise, and it's a nationwide franchise. We went through a big training, and the major thing that stood out to everybody was detach from the result. Mm-hmm. Don't care. Don't go in that house. I got to sell, got to close, got to sell, got to close. Because if you go in a house, this is why I really hate the phrase always be closing. Because that, for one, it's a dumb phrase. It should never have been put out there. Glenn Ross, thank you. If they go in the house this way, then when it comes down to what they're supposed to do, I don't want to do that. I might make them mad. If I go any further, they may never have me back. I don't think I'll even be able to follow up if I say this. If you detach yourself from the outcome and you do what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it, because we teach tone and pause, and you do everything, that outcome, majority of the time, will be favorable. This is why most people that come through Top Rep will actually go past 60% close. Because and inside the roofing industry, I love when people are like, well, the average is 38%. That sucks. I own part of a company called Macon Construction in West Virginia. And even when I go back to my own team there, and I'm looking at the close rate, and it starts to creep under 50%, my head starts to just sweat. And I'm like, this is stupid. I mean, these people called us out. We don't knock doors over there. Well, we do right now because there was a storm, but we don't knock doors. They called us out. How do you not close? I don't get it. If you do what you're supposed to do and you are the logical answer, how do you not close? We shut down the shoppers. So if you're going to say, well, they're going to go out and get 3 estimates. Well, we've already shut that down way early in the appointment. Mm-hmm. So there's things that we teach inside of Top Rep as to why these organizations, not only the reason why they grow so fast, but why they're closing at such a high level, why their NSLIs is off the charts.
So the level of importance around being able to detach from the outcome proves to be a valuable asset. So let me ask you this, and this would the answer to this would be different for probably a lot of different companies, depending on who's running it, the size, et cetera. Why specifically with your teams do you think that was so important? Is it because are they selling from their own wallet that makes them fearful that the people don't have the money? Is it fear of not hitting their goals? Is it the bills they got due and they can't stop thinking about how important this check is? Like, what is it that you find?
So 2 things is the pressure behind their paycheck. They look at every close as a dollar amount, and they're always afraid that, and it's not because our sales reps, they were getting paid extremely well. So it's never, I can't pay this, I can't pay that. It's they want to be so competitive that they wanted to be the one with the big paycheck. They wanted to come home with big paychecks. And so, if they ever gave up in a house, it was because they were nervous that they would miss the sale. And, again, they once we got them calmed down, and really understanding how to be that person in the house, how to dominate in that appointment, then they weren't so frustrated when they couldn't make the sale. They knew that there was so many no's before they can get to a yes. Mm-hmm. And it's going to happen. You're not going to close everything. But when sales reps start to not close, it's usually because they didn't close their last 3. And now that pressure is on. What is Chuck going to think? What is my manager going to think? What's my wife going to think? Or what's my husband going to think? I mean, they're going to think I'm horrible, because, we used to say that closing was a lot like shaving. You go 3 days without and you're just a bum, and again, those were all fun sayings. They weren't true, but they were fun sayings, but it still added to that pressure. So pressure going in the appointment it's good and bad. I mean, pressure to do your job is one thing, pressure to close is not.
Yeah. And I mean, back to your, the statement about mindset, right? If you're a quarterback and you throw a pick six, next time you hop on that field, it feels a lot different than the first time after kickoff that you walked on, right? You got that little bit of self-doubt. Maybe it's a lot of bit of self-doubt, right? So the mindset aspect of that is crucial, for sure.
Right.
All right, so we don't have meetings on Monday. Don't have meetings on Fridays. Let's have them on Tuesday. We'll say it should be 2 hours because an hour-long meeting is an email. We should start it off on a good note. What else does that 2 hours hold for that sales team?
So you should always have a topic, and I'm going to tell you that you should have your next 10 meeting topics. You should never show up and you're like, you know what, today I think we're going to work on step 2 today. No, it should be your next 10 topics are all chosen. And if you're in our platform, you have all of our topics. You have 25 of my sales meetings, not only just the topics, you'll have the presentation, the workbook because ours are very well put together. Our sales meetings are very well put together. So when I do a sales meeting myself with my own team, there's a presentation. They are going to be taught. They're going to be trained that they have a workbook to go through. That's just the first hour. The second hour is we're going to put it to work. So we're role playing, we're asking questions, we're making sure by the time they leave that meeting, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but by the time they leave that 2-hour meeting, they know it. Can they know it so well that they can go out and use it? Not always. I mean, we'd like to say it, but I got to be real here that some of them may need a little bit of help. And if you look at my key competency list, I'm going to go back with that. Certain reps, I'm going to mark that on their key competency list. And then I'm going to pull that rep in and say, hey, in the last sales meeting, I don't think you quite grasped everything that we went through. So I'm going to run through it. I want you to role play it with me, or I'm going to go back through the questions because some of this isn't a role play. I'm going to go back through asking some of these questions. And I want you to really let me know at what point you kind of fell off. So I want them because every meeting we have, one of our funnest meetings was a lie detector meeting. We had a lady come in and literally talk about how, you could give her 2 truths and a lie. She's picking it out every time. And, she was one of the people that really helped us to understand the truth behind body language, which 90% of what we've heard about body language is false. And we can get into that. But, again, these meetings, they're very educational. They're training. These guys are, when they leave, they are pumped up. Even when they make fun of my videos. Because we always end with a video, and like, oh, movie time. Some of the guys would even, because this was at another company that I ran in Cincinnati, and this was after I left Able. But I showed the movie, and everybody, as a joke, they reached in and grabbed a bag of popcorn. This was all it had to have been pre-planned. And they always asked, hey, Chuck, can I get a link to that video? Because there's always YouTube. And so can I get a link to that? I want to show it to my kids. I'm like, oh, you guys wanted to make fun of me in the meeting, but now you want to take it to your kids. But if you're going to do that kind of thing, if you're going to have a video to end with, you have to look at what it is you are talking about in the meeting. It can't just be a motivational video to send them into the day because it will get old. But and you may not have a video every time because you can't find a video to match that meeting. But you want something to go with the tone of the meeting. Right. So if you're going to be talking about how not to be average, that guys, we are masters and pros. Some of you are masters trying to get to pro. Some of you guys are pro. Because we have 3 levels that we put our reps in. And, we talk about not being average. So at the end, we have a really cool video of not being average, and what average people do, what pros do, and so we like to show that in those meetings. But this meeting is something where if you have just one sales meeting, not just because I'm hoping you have other meetings, but when we have just one sales meeting, I have to make such a big impact in that meeting that carries me 7 days, that it motivates them, pushes them, gets them moving for 7 days. Because our other meetings are all Zooms. We're going to Zoom from 7 to 8 in the morning, every morning. And that is the team getting together for our morning huddle for our power hour.
So if I'm a roofing company and I'm doing 1 million, I'm doing 3 million, but I don't have any cadence of set meetings at all. It's kind of just here and there as I see fit. How do I get to a place where there's a structure and now my now reps are okay with participating in these meetings and it's not looked as micromanagement-esque, or might it be possible that I might have to turn over my sales team?
You may have to turn over your sales team. Anytime that I get somebody in my sales team, or I have a client that has someone like this where they want to push back on meetings, they want to push back on the team. They want to push back on. Now, if they want to push back a little bit on technology or something new, they can voice their opinion. But in the end, this is not a management by committee. And we have to let everybody know this. And I just had a phone call this morning, kind of a frantic phone call from another coach. This is what I love so much about what we do, is it wasn't even a client of ours. It was from a coach that in the industry that says, hey, I got the client and I'm here right now. This is what happened. And he thought I was going to say, fire him, and I'm like, no. It doesn't mean we have to fire this person, but we need to see if they're willing to get on the same page. The thing that drives me crazy are 1099 reps that want to act like 1099 reps. Yeah. The moment that a rep decides they want to act like a 1099 rep, see ya, bro.
Yeah.
Because this is the team. Right. The only reason why we're 1099 is for you at the rep, because it doesn't benefit us in the least. Right. I mean, we have a noose around our neck. I got a gun to my head right now, being a 1099 company. And everybody wants us to go W-2. I'm 1099 so that you can keep your write-offs. Well, once I go W-2, you lose everything.
You lose everything.
Yeah.
Get your shit together. Stop being a prick.
But again, this is whether they don't like meetings, they need to fall in line. When you do power hour, they're not going to like it. At first, it's like every morning. And from 7 to 8, I don't care when. We have one that just started power, and he even the sales leader was sitting back like, man, I just don't know if this is going to be right. I don't even know how I'm going to do it. And so they started from 8 to 9, and they're like, guys, this is the greatest thing we have done. Our numbers went straight up. The team are talking more throughout the day. It's just been phenomenal. But again, it took the sales reps a little while to really get in, and they only have 3 sales reps. So it's not even power hour, it's a power half hour. But again, they get on the phone, or they get on a Zoom, they get together and they move forward through the day, and they watch how fast their close rates just continue to climb. There is a organization, and they're very well known organization in Houston called Eldridge Roofing. And everybody knows there's teams, and then there's Eldridge Roofing team. I mean, they're very close knit. And they have been doing power hour now since we started working with them two or 3 years ago. And once they started doing power hour, that company has exploded. We helped them get into solar, and they exploded in solar. We just helped them get into Windows. They're killing it in Windows. I mean, they crush everything they touch, but they'll always go back to power hour as the reason.
Do power hours.
Yeah, and that's why we call it Power Hour. I mean, it has to be the team. And you know that Power Hour is doing its job when the sales manager starts the meeting, but the team runs it. You know, they're like, and I'm going to say, hey, Billy, I saw you had a 10 yesterday. How'd that 10 go? And the team jumps in to work with Billy on the whatever might have gone right or gone wrong.
And just to clear the air one more time, the difference between the power hour versus the typical sales meeting is?
So Power Hour is every morning, and it's an hour in the morning, and you're just talking about what happened yesterday, and you're going to discuss as a team what's going to happen today, how we're going to win today. That's the premise, is how we're going to win. So it's like you're going up against another team. It's like, how are we going to put the points on the board today? And the court's in front of you, because you're looking at the sales schedule, the sales calendar. But then your sales meeting, this is the training. We have some people that would do a lot of training during the Power Hour, which you absolutely can. We will do it, or we'll discuss certain things that we'll have sales reps say, hey, on that last sales meeting, I didn't understand this. And so, we'll go through it, the last part. And any of the other reps that don't want to hang on, they don't have to. But we'll get into any of the questions for the sales reps based on the sales meeting or sales trainings in the past.
I mean, I could sit here for 3 hours and talk to you about this stuff, no problem. Anything else surrounding, meetings for salespeople and setting up the meetings, et cetera, that you think would be important for these kind folks tuning in?
Yeah, so when it comes to the meetings, when it comes to your team, really look at your team. Is this a team? Do we have backbiting? Do we have guys that wish other guys would fall flat on their face? Is this a team? Do we operate as a team? Now, I want you to be very careful. If you look at this and like, man, we're a family, that is not the way to go. That is not the way to go. Because when you operate as a family, and some of them truly are family, but when you operate as a family, it's, man, I can't let him go. He's been here so long. That's like Brother Bob. And so then set Brother Bob in a recliner in the corner and keep paying him. I don't care. Just get him out of the field. If you don't think that Brother Bob, it's not your brother at all, it needs to stay because tenure. We have to watch this. Remember that professional teams, if you watch a lot of these, there's a lot of guys just sit in the bench that will never play.
Right.
There's also, I don't know if people know this, but there are, inside of professional sports, there are people in the stands that belong on the team that aren't even allowed to take the field. They're in the stands, or they're up in the box. They're not even allowed to take the field. So, that's how stringent this is, is this a team? You got people that aren't team players that are not on that field as the team. They get that shot, they can turn things around, and they're only there because their contract says so, But again, on your team, inside of your business, whether it's roofing, siding, windows, baths, whatever, do you have a team? And I had a client, it's a big coatings client, and he says, man, I got 3 guys that are underperforming. And I'm like, well, how long have they been there? Well, 2 of them have been here since we started back in 2020. And I says, how long have they been underperforming? Well, since they started. I'm like, this is pretty clear.
Yeah.
And so I says, you can raise your close rate because you have to understand how much these people are costing you. And I can tell you since 2020, having that person or those 2 people have already cost you over $1 million since 2020. Yeah. They've already cost the company over $1 million. Because if you took the leads that you gave them and you gave them to someone that's above the line, what do you think would have happened? How much money do you think you would have sent to the bottom line? So we have to look at this. For every underperformer, if you gave that, and do the numbers, if you gave those leads to somebody above the line, what would you have made?
Yeah, it's the opportunity cost, right?
That's it.
Yeah, it's shouldn't be overlooked, right? And it's a simple math problem, right? If they're closing at 20%, somebody else you'd expect to close at 35, well, 15% of what the deals issued leads sales, it's like, okay, we lost X amount of dollars. That's fucking terrible. Let's face it.
I was an engineer, but and I'll also tell you, I suck at math, but I can also add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Yeah.
And so when I put the numbers, sometimes the numbers work and sometimes they don't. And when they don't work, you need to fix them. And you need to be savage about it. This is your business. Act like it. This is not a family. This is your business, and just simple tweaks. We had a client in Columbus where I literally walked in and said, you need to fire everyone. And I mean admin, production, everyone. And he kind of stared at me, and he did. Now, I will tell you, it's the only client out of thousands of clients, but that I've ever walked in and said it. He did. Now he's one of the fastest growing roofing companies in Ohio. He's on his second location. Last year, the end of last year, he was called Franchise of the Year for StormGuard, the top StormGuard franchise. He was going to get out of it, and we turned it that fast.
Moral of the story: if there's anything you take away here, folks, fire everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
You too could be the fastest growing roofing company.
That's right. Now, it's how we rebuilt his company is why he's growing so fast. And, I told him that, and I'm not going to go into it because I love him to death. I mean, he is such a great guy. But there were certain things he did well and certain things he didn't. And I says, here's the things that you don't do well. And we need to hire somebody for your weaknesses. And that's what we did. We hired a guy named Jeff, and that was yesterday's news. Boom.
Killed it. Well, this was incredibly insightful, I think would be an understatement. I look forward to our next conversation that'll be coming soon. Thank you all for tuning in. Chuck, thanks for taking time out of your busy day. And thanks for the team at Roofer for help making this all happen.
Man, Michael, man, you just have this way of digging into me. Like, let's go, bro.
Well, hopefully it helps, So.
All right, man.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right. See you, bro.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.